And we're back, like we never left. Welcome to the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your Friday evening, a little snowy and miserable today here in New York. But once again, we're going to skip past all that promotional jazz and get right to the guts of the episode. 5 days from the big day. 5 days from jolly old St. Nick. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. So we're going to do another Christmas-themed episode, Best Christmas Movies. And I'm going to have another renegade pick, but not a renegade pick on the order of Die Hard or Lethal Weapon. Welcome to the party, pal. Come out to the coast. We'll get together and have a few laughs. Goddamn Christmas. The reason why this is a bit of an unconventional pick is there's a lot of people that do not like this movie. This is not one of the standards, but it is a film that I watched a lot. Because by virtue of it not being rated R, HBO and Cinemax were able to show it 24/7. In fact, on the Saturday night in which it premiered, it probably would have been late 1989. I saw it in the morning. I watched it at 8 a.m. I didn't wait for the premiere. Hey, look what's on. Scrooged. Richard Donner, the director of the film that I talked about the other night, my third favorite Christmas movie of all time behind Die Hard and Home Alone, Lethal Weapon, he also directed Bill Murray in really one of his most outrageous performances, Scrooged. Now, people such as me, we use words like meta, intertextual, extratextual, all of these words. But Scrooged is a very meta film because it is a Christmas Carol story. This is a Bob Cratchit, Ebenezer Scrooge, Ghost of Christmas Past, Ghost of Christmas Present, Ghost of Christmas Future. This is that story. But in the world of this film, the character played by Bill Murray, quite well, as I said, Frank Cross, great name. Frank Cross is the head of a major network. And his network is putting on a live broadcast adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Once again, as I like to say, nail, meat, head. They're just beating you from every angle. Frank Cross is the Ebenezer Scrooge character. And the Bob Cratchit character is played by the kind of notorious stand-up comedian Bob Goldthwait, who had some kind of a weird feud with Jerry Seinfeld, where Jerry is still mad at him. Decades after whatever it was that happened. Maybe it was that Goldthwait said he didn't like Seinfeld. It was probably something really petty. And Jerry has laughed about it, but I think he actually doesn't like this guy. Whereas when Jerry famously called out Larry King for not knowing what the fuck he was talking about, yeah, Jerry was angry, but I don't think he held it against Larry. I think he still dislikes Bob Goldthwait. But Bob Goldthwait plays the Bob Cratchit character, and Frank Cross is supposed to be Ebenezer Scrooge. So here we meet Frank, and when I say that it's a very broad and outrageous performance by Bill Murray, he ad-libs continuously. There is a lot of stuff here that was not in the script. And sometimes it misses the mark, sometimes it hits right. And for example, in Ghostbusters, almost all of Bill Murray's ad-libbing, it's magic. There's a few moments here where he is going off the script and it appears that the co-stars are not really following. They leave it in the movie because it feels natural. And it's something similar right around the same time frame. Eddie Murphy's Harlem Nights. Eddie was a guy who loved to ad-lib. And there are moments in that film, there's a scene with Danny Aiello where Eddie is doing his own thing, and you're almost looking at Aiello saying, why isn't he reading the fucking cards? What is he doing? You got to keep up. When you're working with a live wire, someone who's that creative, whether it's Bill, whether it's Eddie, keep up. Because if they're ad-libbing, you're being encouraged to do the same. Think about Midnight Run. I talked about it. In that movie, Grodin was doing his thing, and rather than get upset and De Niro saying, stick to the fucking script, Chuck, no, he followed along. and they made movie magic. But in the case of Scrooged, Frank Cross is this hard-charging, really a fucking heel. He might not literally be Ebenezer Scrooge, but he's an asshole. He's needlessly cruel to his staff, making them work on Christmas. He fires, spoiler alert, the Bob Cratchit character, Bob Goldthwait. He's just not a nice man. And he seems to have purposely distanced himself from his remaining family. He has a brother that he clearly has affection for, but he's almost reached a point in his life where I don't think it's that he does not have any humanity. He doesn't want to show it. He's happier putting this nasty face to the public, this bitterness. This is a guy who's probably a multimillionaire. He's made it. You know, they all joke about, it's another way I can stick it to the man. Bro, you are the man. You're the guy that we want to stick it to because you're such an asshole. So he comes down hard on his employees, and he has this harebrained idea that he wants to do a Christmas Carol, a live broadcast. It's just a disaster waiting to happen. And as he is just spewing vitriol, and he's exceedingly unlikable. The thing with Bill Murray, and to some extent, you could say the same, although totally different kinds of performers and movies that they were in. Bill Murray has played unlikable characters. He's done them so well that we kind of root for them, or they have enough of a turn where we do root for them. In the case of Michael Douglas, some of his characters are just assholes, but they are at the center of the story. This movie almost crosses a line where Frank Cross is unredeemable. It's close. And for some people, it did get there, and it's why this movie is not as beloved as I think it could be. They could have done with a little bit less nastiness from Frank Cross. Just a little bit less. So he is visited by ghosts. And most memorably, the always fire Carol Kane plays the Ghost of Christmas. I think she's the Ghost of Christmas Present. And the Ghost of Christmas Past is played brilliantly by the musician and actor David Johansen, or Buster Poindexter, if you will. Buster Poindexter was in the news not that long ago because of a short documentary type movie that Martin Scorsese, I don't know if Martin produced it or if he just shot the footage, but Buster Poindexter, his professional name when he sings, kind of like Bruce Willis was Bruno Radellini when he sang. But Buster Poindexter did a set at the Cafe Carlyle in New York City, which was supposedly just phenomenal, and Scorsese with all the angles. And much was made of the fact that it was right before COVID. That this was, I hate to say it, but this was one of the last times that huge gatherings of people in New York City, and nobody was worried. We'd heard of it. We didn't know where things were going to go. But so he's still making music in present day. But in the world of this film, if you don't know that he is a singer, oh, that's just David Johansen. He is incredible. Carol Kane kind of steals the show, but David Johansen is awesome in his role as the Ghost of Christmas Past. And there are plenty of cliches in this movie. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. But when David Johansen has this kind of, he's not really a cab driver. He pretends that he's just a cab driver, but he's a ghost, or he's whatever celestial being he's supposed to be. I assume it's a ghost. Maybe he's just an angel or a devil or a demon. I don't know. We're taken on a tour of Frank Cross's past. And Bill Murray's real-life brother, Brian Doyle Murray, who later, to greater effect, I would argue, plays a key supporting role with Bill in Groundhog Day, directed by Harold Ramis. But in this movie, Bill Murray's brother plays his dad. And the father was a butcher. And we see a very sad scene. And not a sad scene in a conventional sense. It's sad because Frank Cross believes in Christmas, clearly. As a boy, he believes in the spirit of the holiday, the joy, family, and gift-giving. And he apparently has asked for a model train, or as he puts it, a choo-choo train. His father is a butcher. I mentioned that. I didn't mention that by accident. He's getting ready to give his son his Christmas gift. And the kid, young Frank, says, "Is it a choo-choo train?" And his father says, "No, it's 5 pounds of veal." It's 5 pounds of veal. That's the Christmas present for little old angel-faced, cherubic Frank Cross. Now, the present-day Frank Cross, watching this kind of sense memory from his past, starts to cry. David Johansen kind of says something to take a shot at him, and he doesn't want to admit that he was moved to tears by this pretty terrible thing that he just remembered and witnessed again. And he says, more implying that he was upset because his younger self didn't appreciate, "This would be about $30 in milk-fed veal, and look at how I reacted." Bro, give me a fucking break. Come on. Come on. So he's resistant to the kind of auditing of his life. When his mother says, "Merry Christmas, Frankie Angel," he breaks down. He cries. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's good. Even if he's embarrassed, even if he's poo-pooing it, "Oh, I was emotional because of my dad was giving me such a nice gift of milk-fed veal." When the mother says, "Merry Christmas, Frankie Angel," and he starts crying, you know that this man is not beyond help. And then we see his relationship with Claire, played beautifully by Karen Allen, who most famously is Marion in the Indiana Jones film franchise. Indiana Jones film franchise, for those who aren't familiar with it, there are 5 movies. The first 3 are incredible. I rank the first 3 taken as a sum total, Steven Spielberg's finest achievements. Those 3 movies together. Masterpiece, masterpiece, masterpiece. 4th film, Crystal Skull, no good. 5th film, Dial of Destiny, pretty good. Thank you, I'll be here all week. But Karen Allen as Claire, she's such a sweet soul. She is nothing like Marion from Raiders of the Lost Ark, who is, she's tough as nails. She'll drink you under the table. She'll sock you in the jaw if you push her too far. Claire is just a sweetheart. And she and Frank Cross worked together. I'm not sure if they were at the same network, but they worked together as younger people. They started dating, and they ended up moving in together. And this is all kind of happy and joyful. They're talking about, their presents and gift giving within the context of this past memory. And Bill Murray has an incredible actor moment during this particular segment. He has been watching. He hasn't been reacting that much. He's excited to see Claire as a younger person. Apparently, they didn't necessarily have a conventional breakup, but they haven't seen or heard from one another in quite some time. And when you get to the moment in his memory, Bill Murray does something where he stands up straight and his facial expression suddenly changes. And I remember, and if you, for the first time seeing this movie, it is jarring. It calls attention to itself. And it doesn't make sense until you realize why. Did he just do that? He knows he's about to watch the two of them break up. And it's breaking him up just as it did. He is wishing he hadn't behaved this way because he loved her and she loved him. Well, it is Christmas. It's the most wonderful time of year. And as Claire says, if you're talking about regret, maybe you still have a chance to change it. maybe there's always time to change it. For me, the segments with David Johansen work the best, giving us enough of an idea of Frank Cross where he doesn't suddenly become likable, but he becomes relatable. We understand. He didn't have the most loving dad. Father didn't really pay any attention. He could have gotten him something other than food. I mean, they were probably just going to turn around and, cook the veal. Or as Mike Myers said, try the veal. Try the veal. When Carol Kane comes on the scene, and she's pretty violent, it's part of the appeal of the character is that she's consistently just beating the crap out of him. Well, he deserves a comeuppance. Because it's not that he's cut corners. He is a workaholic. This is not a guy who lucked his way into this position. He presumably was hyper competent and showed a bit of a steel spine where he wasn't afraid to ruffle feathers and fire people who, in his estimation, weren't pulling their weight. When Carol Kane enters the story, the mood changes. It's strange, but the mood lightens because she's so colorful. So the most important thing that takes place in this segment is when he sees his brother and his brother's family. And there's a little bit of a running gag, which I think is funny, but a lot of people didn't think this was funny either. Frank Cross, this is presumably supposed to be 1987 going into 88. He has a crazy amount of people that he has to buy Christmas gifts for. And this isn't that unusual for people who are in business. If you know a ton of people, my old man, he had a laundry list, an enormous laundry list of people that he had to give gifts to. And some people he just wanted to. But keeping up appearances, whether you like it or not. So Frank Cross has only 2 gifts. Just 2. In this particular Christmas. If you're on his list of people he must give gifts to, you know what your choices are? You get a VCR. Not bad. Or you get a towel. So there's a moment in the film, his assistant, who he realistically can't be without, she is phenomenal. Was her name Grace? I don't remember. But she has a son, I guess is supposed to be the Tiny Tim character. And that story seems like it's not really going to pay off, but it does. And the actress, I apologize, I don't remember her name. She just gives a beautiful performance in this film. So she's going over the list with him of the people you have to give gifts to, Frank. Oh, it's okay. A name comes up, CEO of NBC. All right, I got to get him a VCR. CEO of ABC, towel. And so this is this running gag. So they come to his brother. His brother. I guess his parents are both gone, or their parents are gone. He goes, towel. You're going to give your brother a towel? Yeah, towel. So the Ghost of Christmas Present, Carol Kane, we get a bird's eye view of events that are presumably happening right now. So there is a gift from Frank, from him. He's watching his brother and family open a gift. And Bill Murray has another great moment where he sees the box and he goes, that doesn't look like a towel. Just the way he says, that doesn't look like a towel. First time through, I was on the floor laughing. He ended up, not by choice, but because his assistant spent more money, his money, than she should have, got him a top-of-the-line Pioneer VCR. But then something happens that's unexpected. The brother says, he raises a glass. Christmas dinner, he raises a glass. And with a straight face, not trying to be funny, because he doesn't know that his brother is actually watching this. To my brother Frank, I wish he was here. And he is entirely earnest in his approach. And that lands for Frank Cross. His brother's not making jokes. His brother's not acting like he's jealous or that they're estranged or I really don't give a shit. There's no audience except family, his wife, and the whole thing. Raise a glass. And I wish my brother were here. And whatever humanity still exists within Frank Cross that makes an impression. It hits. It slaps. And you can see the gears turning. That this Scrooge is starting to soften. That maybe he could still be a great network head. But he doesn't have to be so mean all the time. He doesn't have to bark at people. He doesn't have to threaten to fire people. You could be an effective boss. You could be a great leader. Still get things done. But there's a way to do it. Not everybody has to be like this guy. Take your foot off the accelerator, Frank. Smell the roses before it's too late. And the Ghost of Christmas Future paints a very dark vision. Without saying anything, it is quite clear that if Frank Cross continues on his present path of rage, of nastiness, of cutthroat, of not taking care of himself, not taking care of himself emotionally and spiritually, not reconnecting with the love of his life, he's going to meet an early end. He's probably not even going to make it to 60. And when Bill, as Frank Cross, sees this, he says exactly what I was thinking. Why are you showing me this if it's already too late? What's the point? You show me my past. You show me my pain. I'm just going to die anyway before my time. What's the point? Why'd you bother to show me this stuff? The thing is, though, you can carry around your pain. It doesn't make you any less. You can learn from it. You cannot repeat it with others. And I got to throw another movie at you, Star Trek V, the weakest of the 6 films, only starring the original trilogy. But there is a major component of the story. The character of Sybok, played really well by the famous theater actor and film actor Lawrence Lucanville, where he is some kind of a shaman, Spock's half-brother, but he has a lot of the same powers as Spock, and he appears to have some conjuring abilities. But he has the ability to free minds. It's not really what he's doing. He's brainwashing, but he's taking away their pain. Whatever horrible hurt you're carrying with you and have been carrying with you, poof, he can make it go away. But it's on William Shatner's Captain Kirk to put his foot down when Sybok says, "Captain, let me help, please. I know you hurt. Share your pain with me." And William Shatner says, "I don't want my pain taken away. I need my pain." It's part of what makes him who he is. It's part of what makes us who you are. But it wouldn't be much of a movie if it's just as simple as Frank Cross is going to probably die of a heart attack at age 56 or whatever. He reconnects with Claire. And they don't necessarily look that great together, Bill Murray and Karen Allen. It's very strange casting. But she has such goodness in her. And Karen Allen emanates incredible warmth in this role. Somehow it works. And when you get to the live broadcast of A Christmas Carol and Frank Cross commandeering it, which generally speaking, this would be the end of his career. And the character played by a terrific actor, was it John Glover? There's no way he would survive this, but somehow we have a feeling that he will. The spirit of the season. The spirit of hope and togetherness, of community and family and love. Like in Lethal Weapon. Not so much in Die Hard, but like in Home Alone. It's here in this movie. In the TV adaptation of Charles Dickens' immortal classic, A Christmas Carol. Not the story, the A story, so to speak, that Bill Murray's Frank Cross lives. The B story. The TV movie they're putting on in real time that he interrupts. It is a really great performance by Bill Murray. I feel like it sharpens as it goes along because there's too much in the first act of him just barking orders, making threats, and being an asshole. Bill Murray has to be the smart aleck. That's just his shtick in this kind of movie. In Groundhog Day, his character is very unlikable. And the events of that story humanize him. Well, the same thing happens here. The Bill Murray arc is here. They did it here first. And Groundhog Day is a much better movie. Groundhog Day is the top 5 greatest comedies in the history of Hollywood as far as I'm concerned. But the lump in the throat, the feeling that we have seen something, that we have seen a very angry man lose his anger. You can keep your pain, but you don't have to be angry. You don't have to take your pain out on others. And if you're really lucky, maybe you will rekindle with the love of your life. Claire, played so beautifully, as I keep saying, by Karen Allen. I can't say it enough. And it's a kind of performance that went overlooked because the movie didn't get great reviews. Maybe it's 60% in Rotten Tomatoes. I remember Newsday hated it. They gave it 1.5 stars. I think that's ridiculous. And I don't remember who sings the kind of the song that is best remembered from this film. Put a Little Love in Your Heart. I don't remember. But it is a perfect song for this movie. It's literal in the case of this film. That's what Frank Cross needed. It's what he needs at the beginning of the movie. He is an ice-cold heart. He is a man consumed by darkness and rage that has no reason to be anything other than joyful, given the successes he's had in the TV business, which everyone will tell you is fucking brutal. Whether it's now, whether it's then. It's not a long life expectancy kind of profession, unfortunately, with all the stress. Got to take a load off every now and then. But when they sing that song, Bill Murray dancing and kissing Claire, it's hard not to feel a smile, a big smile creeping onto your face. It doesn't have the magnificent, cathartic moment between Kevin McAllister and his mom. It doesn't have that. It doesn't even have the sense of relief that Ralphie ends up, spoiler alert, getting his Red Ryder rifle. That the little kid Christmas, that the whole year is about Christmas. And that's something that never fails to make me smile. Bruce Willis stops Hans Gruber. Stops the terrorist takeover, the attempted theft of $600 million in negotiable bearer bonds. Mel Gibson and Danny Glover as Martin Riggs and Roger Murtaugh pretty much shut down a hundreds of millions of dollars worth heroin operation. They do it on their own. Here we are. This movie doesn't have that. but it has the feeling of the season. And not just because it's set around the time. This is a movie about a hard heart softening. And I guess the Ebenezer Scrooge kind of story, what Charles Dickens was doing all those years ago, how many years? 150 years? I don't even know when Dickens, I don't remember his dates of birth. It's something that I should have committed to memory, but I don't. But A Christmas Carol is such a beautiful story. It has such poetry to it. Sometimes you have to look to the past and pay attention to things in the present that you may not normally, to avoid an unfortunate future. Frank Cross goes through all of that and does all that. The smiles from Bill Murray in the first act are almost vicious in their edge. The smiles in the last 10 minutes are real. This man, Frank Cross, has gone on an incredible journey. And it is to the credit of the cast and the great Robert Mitchum, one of the all-timers from the 40s, 50s, and forward. He's fantastic in this film. I mentioned John Glover. He's an absolute riot. Bill Murray is just one of those special people. As Michael Douglas also, it is really difficult to play heels, to play unlikable characters, and somehow find a way to still make us care. Because it's Bill, maybe, we want Frank Cross to be redeemed. We're hoping. And Michael Douglas, in Fatal Attraction, maybe we just don't want him to get killed. Gordon Gekko in Wall Street, maybe we just don't want him to go to jail. Nicholas Van Orton in The Game. We want that guy to get a comeuppance. We don't necessarily want him to die. But this guy needs to get himself together. Bro, you're worth a couple of $100 million. Why don't you spend more time with your brother? Why don't you stop obsessing over your old man? You've got a long way to go. Take a step back. Why don't you smell the roses? Frank Cross is going to do that. The events of this film. He's a changed man. It is unusual, though, for a film that got such kind of raggedy, all across the board reviews. Especially because the supporting performances are so great. And there were a lot of people who hated the movie that thought Carol Kane was spectacular. And David Johansen is a rip, because he is. I think the two of them helped make the movie with their performances. They're very different performance styles working. And Carol Kane, a sketch comedian, famously on Taxi. Bill Murray, a sketch comedian. But their styles, it shouldn't work, but it does when they're on screen together. But Scrooged is a movie that I do recommend if you haven't seen it. Maybe you're not that familiar with Bill Murray. He's just an old guy. I wonder what the last Bill Murray movie, have you even seen a film? If you're under 30, maybe you haven't seen anything with Bill Murray. I mean, Groundhog Day is almost 32 years old, for crying out loud. And Ghostbusters is 40 years old. Scrooged. One of my favorite Christmas movies, released in 1988. I think it was released in November. I'm not 100%. I don't remember the release date. But directed by Richard Donner, the man who did Superman and The Goonies and Lethal Weapon series, among so many others. It's starring Bill Murray, Karen Allen, Robert Mitchum, John Glover, Bobcat Goldthwait. Is John Houseman in it? I think John Houseman's in it. And Bill Murray's brother, Brian Doyle Murray. This has been episode 387 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your really crappy 5 days before Christmas, Friday evening here with me in New York. If you check out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, or the others in which we're hosted, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. I'll be back with a new episode real soon. Till then.